If I told you that the greatest threat to your American dream wasn't a foreign invader, a stock market crash, or a housing bubble, but a single piece of paper waiting for you in a mailbox, you might think I'm being dramatic. If I told you that the white-coated professionals we trust with our lives are operating within a framework designed not to cure you, but to extract every last cent of equity from your home, you'd probably call it a cynical conspiracy. And if I told you that the astronomical cost of your last visit, the $50 aspirin, the $3,000 stitches, the $15,000 facility fee wasn't a mistake or an inefficiency, but a calculated, legal, and highly guarded financial product, you would likely demand to know who is profiting from your pain. Why is it that in the wealthiest nation on earth, a single accident can erase 30 years of middle-class savings? Why do we pay twice as much for healthcare as any other developed nation, only to die younger? The answer is as chilling as it is profitable. The American healthcare system is not a service. It is a trillion-dollar trap, a predatory financial engine that has successfully commodified the one thing you cannot live without: your survival. This is not a story about doctors and nurses doing their best. This is a story about the men in the boardrooms, the insurance titans, the private equity raiders, and the pharmaceutical barons who realized that the most inelastic demand in economics is a person gasping for air. Today, we are going to unravel the sickness industry piece by piece. Grab your coffee and pay attention, because to understand why you are one illness away from bankruptcy, we have to look at a smoking gun hidden in the 1920s and a secret agreement that turned healing into a heist. Before we dive into the history, let's look at the crime scene of the present. In the United States today, medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy. Not credit cards, not student loans, medical bills. We are talking about $220 billion in outstanding medical debt. In 2023 alone, while the average American family struggled with the highest inflation in more than 40 years, the top 7 health insurance companies in the U.S. pulled in over $40 billion in profit, not revenue profit. To put that in perspective, that is more than the combined annual budget of several U.S. states. But how? How does a 15-minute consultation end up costing more than a used car? The answer lies in a document you've likely seen but never understood: the Chargemaster. The Chargemaster is a secret, internal price list that every hospital maintains. It is the holy grail of the sickness industry. It's where a bag of saline, which costs about $1 to produce, is listed for $300. It's where a Tylenol pill is marked up by 5,000%. If a grocery store tried this, charging $200 for a loaf of bread because you were starving, they would be arrested for price gouging. But in the medical world, this is called revenue cycle management. These prices aren't meant to be paid by insurance companies. They are the starting point for a high-stakes poker game where you, the patient, are the only one not allowed to see the cards. To understand how we became hostages to this system, we have to travel back to 1929. Before the Great Depression, healthcare was simple. You got sick, the doctor came to your house, you paid him what you could, or you didn't. Most hospitals were charities, run by churches or local communities. They weren't profit centers. They were places where the poor went to die and the rich stayed away from. But then, the world changed. A group of school teachers in Dallas, Texas, realized they couldn't afford their hospital bills. They struck a deal with Baylor University Hospital, pay 50 cents a month, and the hospital would cover 21 days of care. This was the birth of Blue Cross. It was intended to be a safety net. However, the empty core of medical economics soon took over. Just like the shipping cartels realized that competition kills profits, the medical establishment realized that free market healing was too unpredictable. In the 1940s, during World War II, the U.S. government froze wages to prevent inflation. To attract workers, companies started offering health benefits instead of cash. Suddenly, healthcare was tied to your job. It was the greatest gift the sickness industry ever received. It decoupled the consumer you from the cost. You stop asking how much does this cost, because the company is paying for it. The industry saw an opening. If the patient isn't paying, and the employer is paying with tax-free dollars, why keep prices low? This created a feedback loop of greed. As hospitals raised prices, insurance companies raised premiums. As premiums rose, companies demanded more discounts from hospitals. To give a 50% discount to an insurance company and still make a profit, the hospital simply doubled the price on the Chargemaster. By the 1980s, the nonprofit mask began to slip. Wall Street arrived. Enter the era of the corporate hospital. Private equity firms realized that hospitals were gold mines. They aren't just buildings, they are captured markets. If you are having a heart attack, you don't shop around for the best price, you go to the nearest store. These firms began buying up independent hospitals, stripping their assets, and loading them with debt. They implemented productivity quotas for doctors, forcing them to see more patients in less time. They realized that was the ultimate point of sale. They pioneered the out-of-network trap. Have you ever gone to a hospital that was covered by your insurance, only to receive a $5,000 bill because the anesthesiologist who stood in the room for 5 minutes was out of network? That isn't an accident. It's a specialized business model called surprise billing. It's the fighting chip of the medical world, a way to extract wealth from a captive audience. But wait, there's a deeper layer to this trap. The pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs. These are the shadow brokers of the industry. Companies like CVS Health, Cigna, and United Health don't just provide insurance. They control the middlemen who decide which drugs you can take and what they cost. They demand rebates from drug manufacturers to put their life-saving medicine on the preferred list. If a drug company wants to sell a $100 insulin vial, the PBM demands a $40 rebate. To keep their profit, the drug company raises the price to $140. Who pays the extra $40? You do. In your deductible, in your copay, in your premium. It is a kickback scheme that would be illegal in any other industry, but in American healthcare, it's a standard Tuesday. So, why hasn't the government stopped this? Why, in the land of the free, are we the only people who fear the ambulance ride more than the injury? The answer is the lobbying leviathan. The healthcare industry spends more on lobbying than the defense, oil, and tech industries combined. For every one member of Congress, there are 3 healthcare lobbyists. They have perfected a regulatory capture that ensures the trap remains hidden. They tell us that universal health care would lead to death panels and wait times, but they don't tell you that we already have death panels. They are called insurance adjusters who deny your life-saving surgery because it's not medically necessary for their quarterly profit margin. They tell us that high prices drive innovation, but the truth is, most of the innovation is funded by your tax dollars through the NIH, while the profits are privatized by companies that spend more on marketing and stock buybacks than on R&D. We are living through a financialization of sickness. Your body is no longer a temple, it is an annuity stream. Every chronic condition is a subscription service. Every emergency is a windfall. The sickness industry has created a world where the healthy are profitable, but the chronically ill are a gold mine. They have no incentive to cure you, only to manage you. They have built a system where the empty core isn't the lack of ships, but the lack of humanity. So, where does this leave us? We are trapped between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, we have the most advanced medical technology in human history. We can map genomes and replace hearts. On the other hand, we have a financial delivery system that is predatory by design. The trillion-dollar trap works because it relies on your silence and your ignorance. It works because you are too sick or too tired to fight the 50-page bill. It works because they have convinced us that this is just the way it is, but it isn't. It is a choice. A choice made in boardrooms and backrooms to prioritize shareholder value over human value. The next time you open a medical bill and feel that pit in your stomach, don't just see a debt. See it for what it truly is, a monument to a system that has forgotten its purpose. A system that views your life as a line item on a balance sheet. The question isn't whether we can afford to fix the system. The question is, how much longer can we afford to let it stay broken? Let me know in the comments, have you ever been hit by a surprise bill? How has the cost of healthcare changed your life? If you want to see through the smoke and mirrors of the global economy, subscribe to this channel. We're uncovering the history they want you to forget. Keep your eyes on the bill and your heart on the truth. Until next time.